So for those of you who
Oh,
don't know Ty, he last year they had, I think, two writers this time, probably maybe two or three writers. You were writing 20, 30 grand a month on your own production, and then finished the year you wrote 600 grand. Your team's doing 450, 500 a month now. So it's been an amazing, year stretch. So if anyone is kind of want to go in that same trajectory, I would take notes and pay attention. But dude, I'll get out of your way. Appreciate everything you're doing, and looking forward to learning from you, bro.
cool. Thanks, Zach. So yeah, Ty Cook. I work in. I'm originally from Texas, but have been in Denver, Colorado the last 6 years. Been in insurance for three of those. I was in solar sales prior to this. Um, First thing, since this is a builder's call, I'm going to mainly talk about building. I'll touch a little bit on selling because I think in order to build a big agency, you have to be good at sales first. But the thing I want people to leave with, I guess, is um, I feel like when I started, I wanted to build this massive agency. I worked alongside Easton Patton, Zach Trudowski, Wiley Hawkins. Saw him build, and so in my mind, for the first couple of years, I felt super behind, and it wasn't until my third full year that we popped off and seemed like an overnight success. But it was 2 years of hard work prior to that. So first thing I'll start with is everybody's got a different timeline. So the first 2 years I got discouraged because I was trying to build and I sucked. There was things that I wasn't good at, things that I failed at, money I spent that I shouldn't have. But if you just keep doing it, eventually it'll work. So I'm going to talk about the past year, the past 12 months. So we just left convention. This year at convention, I think I had 22 agents there versus the year prior, I went to convention with one agent. So 22 at convention plus in our office, we have about 50 to 60 active agents, which basically about, if I showed you the office, we're in a new 10,000 square foot office that me and Easton went in on. There's about 45 agents in office today. And that was by design. And so I'm going to talk about how we got there. It's something that anybody can do, whether you've been here, for 6 months or 6 years. Anybody can implement this and hopefully see success. So step one for me, and I think this goes to everybody, is figure out a way to sell 30, 40, 50 grand on your own pen in a month. If you haven't done that already, it's been done by hundreds, if not thousands of people at Family First Life. And so look up, basically look to your upline, or if they haven't done it yet, just go up the chain until you find someone that has sold 40, 50 grand at a high level, and basically just do what they did. The way that one of my guys put it when he first started, Jesse Wagner, he did Hall of Fame his first year, no sales experience. His goal when he started was to do everything that I did and then work harder than me. So I was the example for him, and his only goal was just to duplicate, rip off, but then work harder than me. So that means more hours, but don't try to reinvent the wheel. Just work harder doing the same thing that someone else has done, and that's step one. Now, step two for us. Sorry, this sun keeps shining in. Step two for us was, basically, my first 2 years, I struggled with hiring, and I was only trying to recruit warm market, which nothing bad to say about warm market. But for me personally, I had a hard time because when I hired a friend or a family member or a cousin, I was not as like strict, or I was not as bold and blunt with how things really are. I kind of sugarcoated it, kind of coddled them a little bit because, I have a relationship with them. So for me, last year I decided to stop hiring warm market and just focus on cold, which inevitably actually led to more warm market hires. So for me, cold market, this was step two. Invest, 200 to $500 a week to start in Indeed ads. So Indeed, ZipRecruiter, any of the job boards, you can throw 200, 300, $400 at it, and then you'll get people that are looking for jobs. Now, step three, after we, of course, step two includes getting the inbound, leads, right, of people wanting a job. meeting with them, bringing them on. Step three for us was how did we onboard? If you look at how it's been done in the past, or at least for me, I might recruit someone in Tennessee. I live in Colorado, right? And then, I was selling, we'd be on Zoom, and then I'd hire someone else in South Carolina. We were on Zoom. I was trying to make it work. Whereas the only person I was seeing success was a guy that lived local and came to the Denver office with me. And so I only started hiring local and had all my new hires come to the office. And so what that allowed us to do is, like, instead of me training one-on-one, spending an hour training this agent on Zoom in Tennessee, and then another hour training this one in South Carolina, spending that one-on-one time, I could bring them to the office and train them all at the same time. So if we had 3, 4, 5 agents, they would come to the office and we would go through the script training. We would go through, objections. We would actually sit there and practice the script in the morning, as role plays, like client to agent, back and forth for about an hour every single day. So step 3 with your onboarding process needs to be bringing them in office. If you're fortunate enough to have an office, some people have asked, like, well, what if I'm not by an office? I think if I were to do it again and there was no office in Denver, I would have just had people come to my house, sit at the kitchen table, or if you have an apartment complex, like, go to the little business center. Like, when you're first starting out, there are resources that you can use to, at the beginning, kind of bootleg it until you can get to the point where you can afford an office. So that's phase 3, is get people in the office. And then, for us, phase 4 was, now that they're in office, we want to treat it as close to a 9 to 5 as we can. So early on, I talked about this with John Wetmore. I was on his YouTube channel recently, and we talked about, like, we all want to do insurance, not because it's this big flashy thing. We want to do insurance because we can provide for our family. And some of us get into insurance because we want to be quote unquote entrepreneurs and have flexible schedule. But the interesting part is, if you come into it with no skill set and no background in insurance, and you try to have that quote unquote flexible schedule, you'll probably fail. Whereas what John Wetmore taught me was, you want people to have like a 9 to 5 mentality, meaning when they show up to the office or show up to work, they're treating it like a job where they're logged in and dialing the whole day, right? It's not like 2 hours here, go take a lunch break, do the laundry, go to the gym, 2 hours here, and then you had no sales that day. It's, once we're at the office, we are working. So for us, it's 8 a.m. script training. Then we dial. Then it's a 1 o'clock objection training, midday, kind of touch base. Then we dial. And then, depending on the day, most people in our office will stay in the office till 5, 6, 7, some of them 8 or 9 p.m. So everybody comes to the office knowing that we're here to work. And it's weird, like, when people leave early, at 3 or 4, everybody starts to give them a hard time, because it's like, no, the standard is just like a normal job. We show up at 8, we don't leave till like 5 or 6. And so with that system, and I guess step 4 for how we did this, it's created now, at the beginning, it was me and one agent. He was buying into the standard, and then we had a couple more buy in, and now it's to the point where everybody knows the standard. And so we're all doing, the same thing. So that's, in a nutshell, that's how we, how we got to the point where we are. Now I'll open up for questions towards the end, but a couple of things that we also implemented that I think are overlooked is addressing the 2 main reasons people fail, right? There's several, but I feel like across the board, maybe some of you can relate. There's really like 2 main reasons why people come in and don't see success. Number 1 is, the hours, the consistency, right? The time. So we already touched on that, but you solve that by creating a schedule. And when someone asks you, when you're hiring them, what's the schedule? You don't say, oh, you can kind of do whatever you want. You say the schedule is 8 to 5 or 8 to 6. Like there's no negotiation. Like that is the schedule. I've already talked about that. Number two, reason why most people fail is um, most people who start in insurance, I would say 99.9% of us didn't come to insurance because we were already independently wealthy and wanted to just add another income stream. I would imagine that pretty much everybody on this call came to insurance because you were in a maybe a difficult or a tough financial situation and you came to insurance to try to get out of that. At least I know I did. When I left solar, I had made good money in solar, but then it went away with COVID and everything. And so I came into insurance like maxed out credit cards, not quite behind on bills, but basically to that point where like a month or two in solar, we would have been out. My wife and I, my daughter, we would have had to move or do whatever, right? So sometimes when we hire people, I'd say most of the time when we're hiring people, they're coming from that similar situation. They're check to check, they're behind on bills. I've even had some people I hire, they recently had to their house foreclosed or they're coming out of bankruptcy. Like it's not unheard of to bring people in that are quote unquote broken, right? And so sometimes taking a commission only job with so much upside, we ask them, hey, you got to spend money on leads to start. I know that it's important to spend money on leads, put some skin in the game to see that success, but sometimes that added pressure of commission only plus buying leads is really tough for people. And so they don't actually end up selling or working out because there's too much pressure, on buying leads that they just can't focus on selling. And so what we've done to, I guess, alleviate that pressure is, we will provide leads to our new agents. So we'll bring them in at a lower compensation. And we tell them, hey, you don't have to pay a dime towards leads. We have thousands of unresolved older leads that, because you don't have money, but you have time, you can sift through and work through constantly. And so when a new agent starts with us, like let's say, I think we have a couple agents in the office starting today, they're going to shadow for the first half of the day. And then we're going to give them 100 old leads. And these can be leads, from the ILC, bronze leads. For us, because I've been here for 3 years, I have like 50,000 old leads that, they can go through. So we give them, 100 old leads and then 20 a day. If they're showing up, making the, $300-400 a day, we give them 20 new to them leads, right? So older leads, but new to them every single day. And so the objective there is now they have no pressure. They can suck, which everybody sucks when, we all started, we all sucked for at least a couple weeks, if not a couple months. They can go through the reps, they can get told no dozens and dozens of times, and they still have more at bats. Because nothing is more discouraging. I think, there was times when I first started, when I was buying leads, and I had a terrible week. If I didn't, figure something out that next week, how was I going to be able to buy leads? How was I going to be able to, pay rent? All those things were looming. And so it added a lot of pressure. And I made it through, but I think a lot of people have a hard time with that. And so rather than them putting all this pressure on themselves, they can just focus on selling. The people that come in and make $1,000 in a day, I'm going to give them more than, 100 leads here, 50, 100 leads here. I'm going to feed them because they're willing to work. And so that has been a big key to our success as well, is kind of giving people that, I guess that hand, from above, just reaching down, pulling them up with us. And of course, if they're willing to work, I'm willing to reciprocate that help constantly. Now, if they come in and, their first week, 2 weeks, they're kind of showing up late, leaving early, they're not putting in the dials, then we just tell them, hey, this isn't a good fit. And then of course, the ones that work hard, eventually they'll get to the point where, they're selling 10, 15, 20, 25, thousand AP a month on the older leads. Now we come to them and say, hey, you're actually really good at this. You should move to, full broker is what we call it, from lead assist to full broker. Now that you've gone through the learning curve, you've been here for a couple months, you've kind of seen it all, you've made some money, you've deposited some good income. Let's talk about going broker. And usually that transition is a lot smoother because now they know when they are buying leads, they have all the skill set in place and they know what to do. So it's on them, but they have, more advantages than like when I started. I had to learn insurance. I didn't have a deal my first 2 weeks investing in leads every single week. I didn't have a deal till the end of my second week. And so that was stressful. So I guess that's kind of I'm more of like a Q&A style guy. So that's basically what we did to implement, and grow to where we're at. We're 4 weeks through January, we're at 450,000. So we'll probably crack 500 this month. So it only takes a year. It doesn't have to take, well, it took me 3 years, but your ramp up, it can only take a year. You just have to stay in the game long enough and then eventually it'll work. So for the next, I guess 10, 15 minutes, let's just open it up for any questions that anybody may have. I'm an open book. So if you have any questions about building or selling or anything, fire away. Everybody's still waking up. How do you run your intro? Good question, Tyler. That's like intro to the script. I would imagine like sales script or intro to like an interview. Intro to script. Cool. So my intro is, ring, ring, hello. Hey, John. Hey, yeah, this is Ty. Just getting back to you here. It looks like we got a form from you regarding the life insurance. Looks like you list your beneficiary as your spouse. Is that correct? So couple things there. Notice how I go slow. The biggest key for the intro is you want to go slow and controlled. And then the pause, there's a pause strategically right after I say the form you sent in. So sometimes new agents will say, hey, I'm getting back to you about the form you sent in for insurance. Then they pause. That person is going to hang up. It's kind of like the retail store analogy where any of us have gone shopping at the mall. You go into Nike, you're looking for shoes, and the person asks, like, for example, a couple months back, I play in this men's league basketball. I'm pretty washed up, but I play in this men's league. I needed some new shoes. And I go into Nike. They're like, hey, sir, can we help you find anything? And I'm like, nope, don't talk to me. Like, beeline straight to the back to look for what I want. Why do we do that? As consumers, we are all conditioned to just say no because we don't want to be sold. We don't want to be scanned. We don't want to be taken advantage of. And then as soon as I was back there at the back wall picking out shoes, I asked that same dude who I told like, no, I'm good. I asked him like for 10 pairs of shoes, different sizes. I could tell he's getting annoying because I kept asking him, hey, go back, grab this size, go back, grab this pair, go back. Right. But it wasn't until, I understood, what I wanted and what I was looking for. So same concept applies to the intro. If you just guns a blazing say, hey, I'm getting back to you about the form you sent in for insurance, they have a higher chance of deciding, hey, no. Whereas, hey, Tyler, I'm getting back to you about that form you sent in. Looks like it was for the insurance. You list your beneficiary as so-and-so. Is that correct? They're listening like, what form? What form? Oh, insurance. And then I combine that with your beneficiary. You'll hear them in their voice. They'll be like, and then you say the beneficiary and they're like, okay, yeah, I do need that. So pause right after form. Then when you say insurance, make sure you sandwich that with their beneficiary if you have that, or their state, some piece of information, and then they'll stay on the phone with you. Going back up, Frank, you asked what type of age leads are you giving them? Some life, some mortgage. Since I have so many in the database, we just give them my old life leads. If some of our agents that are building don't have as many leads, they'll just get some bronze leads and throw those to their agents. Best way to build credibility, Pierce. So best way to build credibility is we created like a business card. Go to Canva, super easy to do. It has a picture. Let me see if I can actually just show you. It's easier to just show. So here's the card I send all my clients. It's backwards, but it has my name, my NPN. Oh, what's going on? No idea. New iPhone just decided to play music. But yeah, you see it there, name, license number, direct line, and then it says life insurance, mortgage protection, IUL and annuities. We just made this on Canva. Anybody can rip it off. And so when I send that after the intro, I say, hey, Pierce, your phone receives text messages, right? Yep. Okay, cool. I'm going to send you my card with my credentials. It has my license number, my direct contact if we get disconnected. And then there is a picture of me, my wife, and my daughter. I'm the ugly guy on the left. So now they have my credentials, and usually they laugh at that comment and they'll say, like, you're right, dude, you are ugly. Or they'll say, no, you look good. But either way, now I'm human and they trust me. What systems do you want new agents to have when starting, if any? Yeah, so we use Ringy. Ringy's sweet because it has like a 3-week free trial. So when our agents are ripping those old leads, we tell them like, hey, you got 3 weeks to pull something out of these deals, and then you'll pay for Ringy out of those commissions. Plus, you can start, throwing money at new leads if you'd like. So Ringy's been a game changer for us. Provide email. Yeah, I can throw my at the end. I'll throw probably Instagram's better, but I'll throw all my info later for those that might have questions. What has been your methods to recruiting? Currently sending out DMs on Instagram. I know the Instagram recruiting definitely works. I personally haven't done that, but I know that a lot of people have done it successfully, and so it's free. I would do that. It's something that I've never done myself, so can't talk too much on that. And then where do you go to get your cold recruits? Indeed, ZipRecruiter, any of the job boards, they post them there. You can put up a listing, hey, hiring for sales rep. Don't talk about flexible job, but hiring for sales reps, bonuses, high paying opportunities, leadership opportunities, all that. And then people will just start filling it out. You'll have inbound email notifications from Indeed or ZipRecruiter. How do you transition from a Zoom atmosphere to in-office on the grand scale thing, especially with agents across the country? Heather, that's a good question. Scaling from Zoom to an office. I personally didn't have a ton of success with Zoom, not saying that you can't be, but that's why I basically stopped trying to hire nationwide and I just focused on Denver and Colorado Springs, local. So I just shifted all my effort there. And then, just like a normal job, we said, hey, can you come in on Monday, 8 a.m.? We'd hire them like a normal job. How did your recruiting marketing change when you wanted to recruit local only? Yeah, so local only with those job board sites, you just filter by where you want to recruit, and they only show ads to those places. So like Indeed, for example, you can pick, for us, it's Denver, Colorado Springs, and Boulder. So probably few million people throughout that area. And so we only show the ads there. And so whoever's looking for a job on those sites will see our ad and then click it, fill out their form, and then it goes to us. Just like we get leads for life insurance, you get leads through, those job board sites. Bank information. So good question, Amy. So banking, and this goes for, because I sold my first full year, I was all in the field, face-to-face sales. And then my second and third year were all over the phone. So I had a difficult time grabbing the banking, and really just for any of the sensitive info, this line has changed the game for us. So let's say you go through your presentation, out of those options, Amy, which policy makes the most sense for you, or do we need to adjust? Amy, you pick the middle one. Okay, got it. So 20,000 for $100 a month. That's not taking food off the tables. That fits. Yep. Okay, sounds good. Well, next step, Amy, is we need to make sure you can get approved for this coverage. Now, this is the line right here. So, Amy, you've applied for other insurance before, right? Like you have car insurance, health insurance, homeowners insurance. You have all that, right? They always say, well, yeah, of course I have car insurance. Okay, so applying for life insurance is no different. The insurance company just wants to know who they're insuring. So they're going to ask for a few things from you. Number one is your driver's license number to verify your identity. Number two, since there's no blood work, they're going to need your social to verify your medical records. And then number three, they won't charge you till it's approved, but they are going to need your routing and account number on the application when we send it in. Do you have all that with you? So that's right after numbers. I use the car insurance analogy. They've done it before. Now they're not thinking like, why is this guy asking for this? They're like, oh yeah, I did the same thing when I got car insurance. And then don't be afraid to let them know like, hey, of course nothing's coming out today, but once you're approved, they're going to charge you for this policy, obviously. Do you have your routing account number with you right now? And if you do that good enough, you'll actually get the client that even before you're in the application, they will just start, they're like, all right, you ready for driver's? Like they will rattle off all three of those things before I even open up the application. So don't be afraid of saying it up front, because the last thing you want is go through a whole application at the end and then they're like, oh, banking, I don't want to give you that. So say it up front. And if that person's like, oh, well, why do I have to get banking? I thought I was just getting approved. Well, no, Amy, we got to get you approved, but like this is a request for coverage. So when we send it in, you're gonna get approved, and then they're gonna draft that premium so you're covered immediately. Remember, this is day one coverage. Okay, got it. Right now I can continue. Now again, let's say you say that because I've still said that before. They're like, yep, okay, sounds good, and then they give me some kickback at the banking later. So let's say you get to the banking section in the application. You want to pre-frame that again. So the way I do it, let's say you're in Americo. After all the health questions, there's two steps left, right? There's beneficiary, then there's banking. So what I'll do is I'll say, all right, Amy, there's two more parts on this application. Of course, they're going to ask for your routing and account number here in a sec. But first, before that, who's your beneficiary again? So what I did there was I reminded them again, hey, they're going to ask for this bank, routing account number here in a sec. And then you immediately shift their attention to, but wait, who's your beneficiary? And then, they'll tell you beneficiary. That's an easy question. And I say, okay, yep, now I'm on that page. You have that routing number handy? And then, if they give you any kickback at all, you can use the Google trick, Wells Fargo, Texas routing number, validate with them. What's your account number? But usually if I pre-frame hard in the beginning, I use the car insurance analogy. And then I also like pepper in the fact that I'm getting to that point. I don't have a ton of issues on banking. Kathleen, what are marketing lists you use? There's some pitfalls with hiring platforms that you need to work through, like listings, cap. I guess I'm not too sure how to answer that question. I guess to answer that question, don't overthink so hiring I don't know why the switch flipped for me, but basically I understood early last year that you have to have, just like we have to have, 1,000 to 2,000 a week in lead spend to be able to sell. You have to figure out a way to get consistent lead flow on the hiring side. So it doesn't really matter how you do it. There's like quote unquote really no pitfalls, because it's all just volume of leads, right? So just like when you get a batch of 100 leads for calling insurance, selling life insurance, there's going to be like 10 bad numbers, 10 wrong numbers, some not interested. Like there's going to be a mixed bag. So it's the same thing with hiring. As the inquiries come in, there's going to be some tire kickers. There's going to be some, people that aren't actually serious or don't even want to do sales. In your interview process, you just weed those out. Hey, are you comfortable with commission only sales? Are you willing to work, 5 days a week, minimum 40 hours, if not Saturdays as well? And then, hey, it's really hard at times. Are you willing to go through the hard times so you can get the results? If they answer yes to all those things, then I'm like, okay, we can move forward. What about a new lead, Nicholas? What about a new lead? You get a hold of them, get through the intro, and they say, oh yeah, I'm not interested anymore, even though the lead isn't even a few hours old. So not interested at the beginning of the call. So it's like, oh yeah, that's all correct. I'm not interested anymore. Okay, yeah, no worries. So my job's pretty simple. I just move in. So my job's pretty simple. My job is to look at these options for you, figure out who's going to be the best fit. Obviously, this coverage makes sense, but it's got to fit the budget as well, right? Yep. Okay, sounds good. So, the last 10 years, any cancer, heart attack, stroke. So, not interested is a smoke screen that you just need to treat like if you're sitting in front of a campfire and there's smoke blowing in your face, just blow by, just continue. So it's yeah. So it's just acknowledge like, oh yeah, totally understand. Anyways, I got your date of birth here as da 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 da, and you just move on. Right now, if they say it again, then you go back to, oh well, we just got this form from you. I'm assuming you wanted to take care of your spouse. Were you just finding rates that were just too expensive, or you just couldn't qualify? And then dissect the problem, and then proceed forward again. Do you do your social media or do you hire someone? I do my own social media. I will be hiring someone this year to kind of blow it up. Um, Number of requirements for them to stay on lead program. Good question, Frank. So Frank asked, are there number requirements for them to stay on the lead program, or is it if they keep showing up and grinding, you are helping them? So for the first month or two, just because I've seen agents who have written Hall of Fame take 3-4 months to actually get good. For the first month or two, it's purely just based on effort and dials. So if they can, for us, it's 300 dials a day, showing up every single day, no complaining. Those are, that will justify me giving more and more leads. Because remember, these are old leads that I've already spent money on. The cost is already out the window, right? Now, if it's 2-3 months in and something's just not clicking, then we'll have a conversation of, hey, you're putting in all the hours. Like, what do we need to do? Like, your script sounds good. You're or it sounds like you know what you're saying, the process, but like something's not clicking, and we'll kind of do more one-on-one coaching. And then if they still can't get it, then we just come to the agreement like, hey, this just might not be your thing. Like, let's go ahead and part ways before you hurt yourself financially. Trevor, do you have a good way to respond to cold call when they say they already have life insurance? Yeah. So that's yeah. So let's go through that one. Yeah, Trevor. No, that's actually the purpose of my call. So this year there's some new rates and living benefits that are out. Now, have you had any cancer, heart attack, or stroke in the last 10 years? So new rates, living benefits, immediately go to health. Expectations for agents to dial leads, kind of touched on that. How often, how much, how long? For us in the office, it's 300 dials bare minimum. And that's like bare minimum. So if I see an agent just doing exactly 300 on their ringy, I know that they're just actually doing the bare minimum. It's like, dude, you want to make money, right? Like, let's crank that up to 600-700. There's plenty of guys and gals in our office doing that. Do you do drip text? Yes. Drip text through Ringy is a game changer for newer leads and older leads. How much are you spending now monthly to recruit? We spend, for my agency, because I'm helping my teams build, we spend about 4,000 to 5,000 a month on recruiting. But at the beginning it was that. But like, you can start, like, some of our guys start with, $200 a week. So spend something, $200-300 a week can get you some reps. And Andy, what's up, Andy? What comp did you start your new recruits at that you're giving leads to? So everyone that starts on Lead Assist, we bring them in at 65, and then they can progress from there. If they go broker, they can, go up the comp grid as normal. New and not even licensed, but I'm intentionally staying plugged in. What advice can you give me to start while in my licensing process? Yeah, so good question. I think it's Keisha. For us, what our new agents do, this is another key I didn't really touch on. So when I hire someone, like, let's say today's Monday, when I hire someone, I don't wait for them to get licensed to start. Now, legally, they cannot sell a policy. They cannot give any advice towards the policy, but what they can do is screen people and book appointments. So we have new agents in here right now that are starting today that aren't licensed. And so they're going to spend half the day just calling through leads, booking appointments, passing them on to a manager to close. And then they get a little kickback if they close. And then the second half of the day, they're going to spend ripping through the licensing. So when they're in office, book appointments, and they'll get through the licensing a lot faster because they're here to work. They're not at home doing the licensing course for an hour and then turning on Netflix. Like, they're here to get stuff done. how much do you spend on leads per month, and what lead company do you use that worked for you? So on my personal leads, I spend about $3,000 a week on my leads, and that's just so I can get a bunch of pre-booked appointments to give me more time. As far as the vendor goes, we generate the leads in house, so our agency has a lead vendor that we use. So that's where we get our leads from, just Facebook and Instagram. Dr. Madeline Marvin, who are the people that you hired first when you opened your office? So I had when I first, well, I've been fortunate. There's always been an office here. Zach Twardowski used to live here, always had an office, and then Easton Patton as well has always had an office. So when I first started hiring, it was just whoever whoever wanted to give this a shot. So Jesse was like the first hire of last year. He started towards the end of the prior year, but Jesse was the first one. And then our first 5 to 10 hires were all just cold market from Indeed. They were just people with sales experience, no sales experience. One guy had done insurance for 3 years. He's still with me today. So it was just like a mixed group of people because you don't know who's going to make it, right? And so you bring them all in, you give them a shot, you set the standards, and then it's up to them from there. Just have time for maybe, I got to jump off in about 4 minutes. So got a few more questions and we'll wrap up. So Nicholas asked, how do you build a bigger why during the call? Yeah. So the why is all in the tone. And this is a question that has changed the game for us. So the one question that we'll go into, and by the way, Nicholas, make sure your order of things is correct. So the order of things is your intro, then your why, then your structure. So intro, why, structure. Intro being, here's my card, this is who I am, got your request. Now your why, as soon as they're like, yep, I see you, Ty, got your card, I know you're legit. My first question is going to be, all right, Nicholas, so is this coverage on just yourself or another family member as well, right? That's kind of surface level. They say, okay, yeah, me and a spouse. Second question, also surface level. Okay, and is this for final expenses, trying to take care of the mortgage, leave a legacy? What's the goal? Right? So who's it for? What's the goal? And then this third question is where you open up the call with like some emotion. So the third question is, now just and notice my tone. Like I'm playing a role here, right? And you have to use the correct tone, otherwise it'll come out disingenuous. That's a word. Okay, got it. So for the final expense. Now, I guess Nicholas, just curious. I guess what has you looking into insurance now? I mean, did something happen? So what has you looking into insurance now? Did something happen? And it's underrated, but it works because what it does, rather than what I used to do, where I'm like, hey, why are you looking into this now? They don't give you anything back. But when you say, I guess, why now? Did something happen? They immediately will respond one of two ways. They'll either spill their guts on, yes, my neighbor just passed away, my uncle just passed away, da 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 da, because no one wakes up just thinking, oh, today's a good day to buy life insurance. Like something happened, right? Or they will say, no, nothing happened. I'm just getting a little bit older, about to retire next year. Okay, so that tells me something did happen. So they're getting a little bit older. They're thinking about retirement. So I will tell them that. I'm like, okay, got it. So you're just, you're in a good spot now, but as you get older, I see here you're 64, maybe you're seeing some family members start to go. Is that kind of what made you think? And they will say, yeah, we've lost some people, or I had a health scare. Now they will open up. So no matter what, if you just ask them, what has you looking now? Did something happen? They will start to like explain away whatever their reasoning is. And it's like impossible, because I used to have a hard time with I was like, so John, why are you looking at this now? They're like, that's none of your business. I just want to quote, right? But if you actually come like, did something happen? They will defend themselves. That's what I was going for. They will defend themselves and give like whatever reason they need. And obviously, if they did just lose someone, which happens a lot, now you can have that conversation. Did they have coverage? How are you guys doing? I can imagine why this is top of mind to you. You can have that conversation right then and there. Then it just naturally opens up the why. I haven't come up with a better question than that one. So Last few questions, and then I got to pop off. What did it take for you to hit those 40, 50K months back to back? Yeah, good question, Tyler. So the 40, 50K months, and by the way, once you do, I think the skill set from 0 to 20, maybe 25, you can do 40, 50. My best month was 139K last year. And it wasn't that I got like 2, 3, 4 times better than what I was, but it was just pure volume. So anytime you do those bigger months, 40, 50, 60, 100K, it's purely based on volume. And I remember that month specifically, it was like I show up at 8, do script training with my team, and then I was just on calls, like not like I'm not even exaggerating, nonstop from like 9 a.m. to like 8 p.m. with like our training in between. But like from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m., it was just calls all day for like five weeks straight. And so you can't really like overthink it. You just have to kind of, and maybe you've felt this before, Tyler, but there's like a flow state with sales. If you can just come in and you know you've hit that level if like you leave every day exhausted, right? So just come into the office and just like be relentless on the phone. If you're used to making 300 dials, double it up to 600. If you're used to making 600, shoot for 1,000. Like whatever you need to do, just be relentless on the phone, and then you'll put your head up. You'll be like, oh wow, I did 40, 50K. I don't know what changed, but now the IP report shows like double my production. I'm just gonna keep cruising at this level. So it's like you're going up, and then once you're up there, I don't think there's been a month under 50K for me personally for the last like 8 months. But now it doesn't feel like I'm like pushing for that 50K. It just, that's now where my cruise control is. So just put your head down, don't look up, don't overthink it. Some things you do to maximize the profit. Good question, Dylan. So maximizing profit, couple things. I mean, you can incorporate like, I guess there's really 3 things, and I don't know if I remember all 3, but one way to maximize profit is, increase your average annual premium, which means don't be so quick to like downsell to the bottom option, like step them down slowly. Another way to increase profitability is keep more policies on the books. So you can implement things like, at the end of every call, right before I click submit on the application, I do a quick summary of the coverage that we're getting, the price. I double check to make sure they have that in their account. And I like pause for like a minute going over all that for them to be like, yes, Ty, yes, Ty, yes, Ty, I'm good. Yep, I got it. And then the third way, which to be honest, I'm not great at that. I'm just so focused on new lead, but there's a lot of people that are 10 times more profitable than me because they get referrals. So if you can start asking for referrals, it's something that we revised our script last week. We added that into our script where you have to ask for referrals around the beneficiary part, then that can increase your profitability as well. And then just to be honest, for my first 2 years, I didn't even worry about profitability because I learned this from Zach and Easton. It's the philosophy, I think, is sell, create that revenue, and then start to like fine tune. But like sell first, just focus on just, as Sean says, just break shit basically. So, okay, I got 1 more minute, then I got my hard stop. Let's see, there's a couple more. Yeah, triple dial, always triple dial. Yeah, I can share my script. So let me throw I'll throw my email in the chat, and then my Instagram handle if you guys need to ask me questions there. Just because we're out of time, I'll throw that in the chat. And if I don't get back to you right away, just bear with me. But I'm most responsive on Instagram. So if anybody has any questions, I'm an open book. Thanks for taking the 45 minutes out of your day. Appreciate you. We'll see y'all.